you go.
Okay. Right here. How long have you been with Wetaskiwin?
How long have I been in Wetaskiwin? I actually don't live in Wetaskiwin.
Oh, okay.
I live in a place called New Norway, which is about 40 minutes east of Wetaskiwin. But I've been in the Wetaskiwin area for about 32 years.
Oh, 32 years.
Yeah, about 32 years, yes.
Wow, 32 years. But so you're living in maybe county?
Yep, in the area.
Yeah, in Wetaskiwin.
I lived in Wetaskiwin for about 10 years. And when I married, I moved to New Norway.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay. How do you like Wetaskiwin? What is kind of impression, how
I
did you have?
I really like Wetaskiwin, but Wetaskiwin is a different city. And when I say that, I mean we live so close to the reserve, so we have a lot of influence from the reserve. Not all of it is positive. A lot of it can be negative. But in terms of the community itself, I find there's a lot of positives because we have a lot of resources. We're still lacking in some areas, as you know. But overall, when you consider the size, I think we do pretty good. The community is really good at stepping up and supporting the places like, especially like Neighbors Outreach. There's no government in Neighbors Outreach. It's sponsored by the churches, and we are taken care of by the people of Wetaskiwin.
Amazingly.
And we're taken care of by the churches. So, and we're able to meet the needs. I mean, we serve a lot of people just like Salvation Army, but of course we have the soup aspect of it as well. Yeah. But we're never out. We always have a lot.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit maybe your personal maybe. So 32 years ago, you have been here 32 years in around this area.
Yeah.
Almost. Because oftentimes when I was young, when I living in Korea, I'm living in Seoul, in one of the big city, and Seoul. But I want to see abroad, and I want to see different country, and I want to see a bigger city,
Absolutely.
or something like that.
Yep.
So 32 years ago, you're probably maybe you're living in the Wetaskiwin, but you're probably thinking maybe going to a little bit bigger city to be somebody.
Actually, not really.
Okay.
No, because prior to moving to Wetaskiwin, I lived in the city. I lived in Edmonton. I say 32 years because my son was 5 or 6 at the time.
Okay.
My oldest son, and I have 4 children, and they're all married and grown now. But they went to school here in Wetaskiwin. But prior to that, we lived in a smaller community in Slave Lake, the city that burnt.
Yes.
We were there. Just after the flood, we left and we moved, came this direction. But prior to that, we lived in Edmonton. So we were in Edmonton for about 5 years.
5 years, and then you're coming.
And then we wanted to go
Coming
smaller.
down, smaller.
Yeah, because we had children, we wanted to raise them in a smaller town, smaller city.
For their
for them.
benefit.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had no desire to move on to a bigger. I have actually my children as well. I have a daughter that sings, her and her husband, and they have no desire to go to a bigger city.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think with the technology we have today, you can pretty much do anything anywhere
Exactly.
and still be able to succeed because we have the internet, we have all the social medias, and you don't really need to be in a big city anymore, other than if you like the city life.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So how was cities like when you were 32 years ago? How with Wetaskiwin? Because I just moved in, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is my third year in
Okay.
Wetaskiwin.
So how were the big cities
No.
compared to Wetaskiwin?
Yeah.
How was Wetaskiwin?
How was it Wetaskiwin compared to? Is anything?
Well, for
Because
one,
you're from the Edmonton State there, and
Yep.
then you're coming down here. How was the cities like?
well, you didn't have access to everything here. When we first moved to Wetaskiwin, we had a few little things, but you still had to go to Edmonton to get everything.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in Edmonton nowadays, you can get everything at a drop of a hat. And again, the internet and the technology of today makes it accessible anywhere. But at that time, you had to go to Edmonton. You didn't get everything here in Wetaskiwin. You were limited to what we had. We had a mall.
Yeah.
Well, I think at that time we had. I think it was called Wilco.
Okay.
We had no Walmart. There was no Walmart in Canada, so it was called, I think it was called Woolco or Woolworths,
Okay.
and that was in the mall. And if you couldn't find it there, then you had to go to the city.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we didn't quite have the resources we have today. Technology opens up a lot because number one, it tells the world, the bigger cities, wherever, we have needs. We're able to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and through the internet, through technology. Before, what you had is what you get. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. The other communities really didn't know what your needs were. So, if you were lacking in an area, say a soup kitchen, your resources were really limited. Whereas now with technology, it can be a really good thing. Because number one, your world is opened up a lot more. It's not just Wetaskiwin; it's all these other little places around Wetaskiwin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was just Wetaskiwin in itself. You didn't have Millet. You didn't have all these other little places that you could go to help support. Like we have churches that support us that are way out in Fallen. We're down towards Pigeon Lake, and that's a long ways away. 30 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. They would have supported their own little community.
In here, yeah.
Yeah, and area.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. The cities have a lot of resources.
So at the time, how much we have it here in Wetaskiwin at the moment.
Yep.
Years ago. Is there any story that city itself has? Kind of story that you kind of. Because every city has a
story.
Story,
the only story I know of, and I don't know how accurate it is, is the story of how we got Peace Hills, how we got the name in Wetaskiwin.
The Peace.
Yeah.
The Klein. Klein. I don't know the name of the place. Is right beside the water tower.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Not the clinic.
Klein. I don't know. That it doesn't matter,
Anyway,
yeah.
The story was that we have a lot of Peace Hills names in town. It was because of the treaty or something. The native people and they got together and they signed a treaty for peace.
Yes.
And that's how Peace Hills started. That's all I know of in terms of Wetaskiwin stories.
Do you think what kind of how do you think the story the Wetaskiwin itself kind of shaped the city? Do you think? And shape you as well.
Yeah.
Because you've been here, you're living in a few years maybe up in the north, and then moving down here at the mountain, and then you're living here. Probably shaped you as well. Because I've been to quite a few places. When I was in Vancouver, it shaped me quite a bit because different culture and different language. I was just from the Korea, and when Toronto is a big city, and then it shaped me as well, different perspective. How do you?
Well, for me, because I'm Cree.
Okay.
I'm not from this area at all. I'm not related to anybody here. I'm originally from Fort Chipewyan, which is north of Fort McMurray. But I grew up in the Northwest Territories.
Yes.
Okay? So when I grew up in a residential school. And there was a lot of, not really shaming, but you want to separate yourself from the native culture because it's really pushed on you that it's not seen as important, and so we weren't allowed to speak. We weren't allowed to speak the language. We weren't really practicing our culture, and for me, it was almost embarrassing to be a native. And when I came to Wetaskiwin, in some ways it changed because I could see there was still, even at that time, because I worked with youth. I worked in group homes, and I worked with youth. I worked with families. I did family support, and I could see a lot of the really difficult times people were having, and even though I didn't want to associate myself with native people at first, I slowly started to embrace my culture because I recognized, number one, how important it was to help one another. We tend to we get an education or whatever it is that we get in life, and sometimes people move away because they try and leave their past behind. And that's kind of what I was trying to do because I grew up in a residential school. I grew up in a really dysfunctional kind of home life with a lot of stuff going on. And I was trying to leave it behind. I said, I don't want anything to do with my past. And somehow when I moved here, it caught up with me.
Oh, really?
Because when I say that, I mean the lifestyle a lot of these kids that were living was my lifestyle when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And their home environment was like mine. And and I had a choice. I could try and ignore it, or I could embrace it and say, you know what, guys, I've been there, and use my life as a testimony for them. So you're not stuck in this forever. And so that's what I did, and without realizing it, God kind of took that and it snowballed, and it became a testimony. Because that's the way it is, right? What we live through, what we go through, sometimes we look back and we go, how horrible it was, but you have a choice. You can be pitiful or powerful, but you can't do both.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and I decided I was going to be powerful. So what I did was, I just started talking to the young people. You know what, guys? I've been where you are. I not only lived your lifestyle, but I was able to get out of it.
Amen.
And that was a big thing for us. When I moved, that's how it changed me.
Oh, amazing.
It helped me even here, working with people here. I speak Cree very fluently, so when I'm working at Neighbors Outreach, I can speak to them about it. That was one of the advantages that I guess God gave me, was that sometimes when I first started, because I just started off as a volunteer 3 times a week, and they would speak Cree, and they were, if they were unhappy or whatever it was they were scared to talk about, I knew what they were saying, and so I could approach them on it and say, they're talking about something that happened, a death or a suicide or something, but they really didn't want everybody else to know. But they'd talk about it, and I understood, so I could go over and I could talk to them, pray with them about it. And I found, like I said, when I was a kid, it was something I tried to. My native heritage was what I tried to stay away, because I just associated it with alcohol and dysfunction and everything else. And I recognized that no, that's not the way God planned it, and I didn't raise my family that way. I had my own family, and they were raised completely different, thanks to God.
Yeah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Native people, First Nation person, they see the land different from other people in living here. Vacation is example. But in Korea, in my culture, we emphasize a lot of the land, because the land itself has something telling us. There's a story. Land is.
You see, though, the difference is, I think, with Native people is, at the very beginning when it first started, before white man became involved in their lives, they worshiped the creation as opposed to the creator. And that's not going to work. You know that as well as I do. And, and so that's where they lived their lives. That's why they had, they talked to the spirits. They talked, you know what I mean? They had different ways, whether it's through smudging, through this whole, whatever it is, whatever religious practice they had. A lot of it was worshiping the creator. Sorry, the creation, not the creator. And so somewhere along the way they lost all of that. And you were talking about how, people either learn or they depending on where they live on the land. And I don't think that the people here really had that opportunity, because I think however many years ago, the white people came, and because of this reserved land and all this wonderful stuff that was implemented, it kind of separated people. And so a result is this. Whether it's residential schools or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, people sometimes think they have. I mean, I understand that it's important to know Christ. I understand that. But there could have been a better way.
Exactly.
And the better way would have been ask for directions.
Because culture is shaping your identity, and this is who you are. Just to remove you who you are, then how can any way that we can maybe find out the God who created us?
Exactly. And there's a way. I mean, if you ultimately, like the residential school I went to was a Protestant. It wasn't Catholic. So in a lot of I had a lot of positive stuff come out of it. Like, they were wonderful people, amazing people. A lot of them were Christian. And I saw a big difference in that as opposed to other residential schools where it was just oppressive. It was just abusive. And I didn't have any of that. And I thank God for that. I had none of that. The people I had in our residential school were wonderful people, were amazing, and they were Christian, and that's where I see the difference. Because they didn't go based on what they thought they should. They went, this is the way God wants us to be. and they really practiced what they preached.
Yes, yes.
You know, and
Yeah.